Hi everyone, it's your favorite ITRT, Cindy Robinson, and today we are going to review some basics for Powerschool. When you log in, you have to sign in through your Clever portal and select the Powerschool icon. When you select the icon, you begin with the landing page, which looks like the one on my screen. The landing page has several tabs that explain to you what each item is there for. My screen may have a few more tabs than the classroom teacher, but the ones that I want you to focus on are create an assessment, administer an assessment, and view assessment results, or these top three tabs. So I'm going to first click on Create an Assessment because we're going to review how to make a test in Powerschool. Once you're in the assessment library, the second step is to select your subject. When you select your subject, you must click on the drop-down tab and select the subject area. And what that does is it pulls up all of the test items in the bank for that particular subject. On this side, you can see each item based on the specific items, and they are categorized by strands. And notice that I am clicking on the drop-down menu for each one to reveal the items that are available. You can minimize the items feature as I'm doing on your screen, and then select resources, and then it will pull up all of the passages that are available. When you click the drop-down menu on each one, it pulls up each passage, and so you get to see what each item looks like. Anytime you click on an item, on the right hand side you'll see what the item looks like. It provides a preview for you. I'm going to minimize resources, and the last tab is the exams tab. The exams tab provides you with all of the exams that were created in our district, and you can look it up by post-test, pre-test, quiz, etc. When you are ready to create your own exam, and by the way, you can select any of the exams that are already made and use those, but if you are ready to create your own exam, you can select new exam here, and new exam, the button is also located at the top as well. So I'm going to select new exam, and this next step is going to be very important because this is the step where you identify your particular exam and you organize it in a folder so that you're able to find it later and then test your students in the Testing Center tab. So I'm going to name this assessment Robinson Marking Period 3 Quiz. You can name your exam whatever you want it to be. Just make sure it's something that you will remember and makes sense for you and your students. The exam category is where you will identify what kind of exam this is and categorize it in your school. If it is a quiz, for example, we're going to click on the drop-down menu for quiz, scroll down until we find our school's name, click on the school, and what that does is when you create the assessment, it will be in that particular folder and you'll easily find it when it's time for you to administer your assessment. When you've done that, you can make sure that you've got the right exams, exam subject matter. You have a few other options that you can make. You can remove the back and summary buttons from the test. And you can also leave some comments for yourself so that you can, remember certain things about the exam. I'm going to go ahead and select Create, and it creates the exam for me. Now, this area represents everything that's on the exam. And what you'll notice is at the very top, it says Robinson Marking Period 3, Quiz 1, 0 items. To add items to my assessment, I have to go back to Resources or Items over on the left-hand side. And this is where I'm going to drag an item from the bank over here and put it on my exam. Now I can drag as many as I want, but in order for the item to appear on my assessment, I have to drag the item from the bank to my actual quiz. And so now I have 2 items. And when I am ready, I can go to my exam menu. And this step is very important because until you submit and approve the exam, it won't be available. So you have to go to your exam menu, and this is after you've added everything you want for this exam. Go to exam menu, and then you're going to select submit, and approve. When I submit and approve, that makes it available in the testing bank for Richmond City Public Schools, and it places it in that folder that I chose earlier, Miles Jones Elementary School, for under quizzes. So now if you go back to exam menu, you'll notice that you can preview in Powerschool, which means to look at it the way the kids will see it when you administer the test. You can also print the item with answers. You can print a paper copy for your students to take if you want them to take the test via pencil paper. You can print with an answer key. Now these three options, when you click on them, they will create a PDF. And when you open it, it works like any PDF. You can save it, you can print it, and have copies for your students. When you, go back to exam menu and go preview and power test, it brings up a window. You will need Flash to run it, and most of our RPS devices should have Flash. But you'll be able to see what the kids will see when they take their exam, which is really nice. That way you're able to determine if there are any issues. You can determine that ahead of time, and you give me an email if there are any issues so we can work those out. So I'm going to close that. And now your test is ready to be given in the testing center. So now that you've created your assessment and you're ready to give it to your students, this is where you go to your testing center tab, which is up at the top. I'm going to click on testing center. It takes a second to load sometimes. And when you've done that, similar to how you did in the assessment library, you will need to select the subject. And I'm going to select English 3. You're going to pick the exam that you're going to administer to your students. And I'm going to go to quiz. And once it populates, scroll down to Miles Jones Elementary School. And scroll down to Robinson Mark and Period Quiz 1. Now over in this section, you're going to see your classes. And when you're ready to test your class, you click on the class that you want to test, and then you select New Test Session. This is where you will identify preferences for your test. You can randomize question order for each student. For the passage order, you can randomize. You can also randomize the answer order so that students aren't able to look on to the next screen because each screen will look different. You can create a download password, which will prevent the students from logging in on their own. They would need to have your password in order to start the test. And you can also select a submit password, which will prevent students from automatically submitting the assessment without asking you for that submit password. You can select the show students their test scores option, which gives them immediate feedback as soon as they're finished with the test. You can either add all students from the class that you chose or select manually. And the way that you do that is to make sure you uncheck add all students to the new test session. And then when you're done, you click create. If you have selected not to add all students, you're going to go to this add button at the very bottom, click on that, and this is where you would manually assign each student. You would click on the apple with the plus, and then you can assign the student to power test or not. Let's say I want to just assign this last student to the test, and I would click assign to power test. So that is in a nutshell how to create an assessment and then assign the assessment in Powerschool. Once your test scores are done and your students have taken the assessment and you have results, you can click on the reporting tab, and when it populates, you should automatically see your classes. So when you go to the reporting tab, you should see your classes. You would make sure that you're in the correct term, 2017 to 2018, that you have the subject matter pulled up, English 3, and that you have pulled up the exam. Now for our purposes, I've selected a different exam just so that you could see what the screen would look like when you have results. When you have those results, you will see your name and of course your classes. Beside each class will be the average of how students performed on that particular assessment. When you click on the drop-down menu, you'll see each student and how they performed. When you click on that student's name, you can find their individual mastery by clicking on the right-hand side underneath reports. So you have an individual mastery document which prints out like a PDF, and you can see how students did by each standard and each strand. The other reports can be found at the very bottom under the reports list. And there are several that you can click on and review the assessment results and analyze the data. So to figure out how your students did by SOL and item analysis, you would go from the Overview tab to the SOL and Item Analysis tab. And you can click on each strand and see how your students did as a whole. And that was Powerschool in a nutshell. This has been about 10 minutes of tech with your ITRT, Cindy Robinson. Goodbye.